So you all know YAML, that wonderful language that is used about everywhere for configuration. Any project is using that nowadays, otherwise you are not a cool kid. If you look at Kubernetes, if you look at Prometheus, if you look at anything, just anyone supports YAML. And then there is JSON, which is like YAML's brother, except that JSON is more like you cannot really write that manually. Well, you can, but you will always forget a comma at the end of Azure. It will never be like valid JSON the first time. So JSON is more like for machines and YAML for humans. The good news is that JSON is actually a subset of YAML. So if we find a good way to write JSON files, then we also have a way to write YAML files. It means that all the JSON engineers are YAML engineers. But if you are a YAML engineer, then you are not a JSON engineer. So if you want to choose one, I would recommend that you become a JSON engineer so that you can also just write YAML. Any program that supports YAML as a configuration backend should support JSON as well. You don't even need to tell it. So here comes JSONNet. So JSONNet, it's a DSL to build JSON. So you build your JSON file with a language based on some data. It's like super JSON. So because YAML is superset of JSON, JSONNet is a superset of JSON. Every JSON is valid JSONNet. Every JSON is valid YAML. So JSONNet compares to JSON. JSONNet compares to YAML then. Did you get that? Okay, anyway. JSONNet, so it's open source, it's from Google, it's written in C++. There is a Golang implementation that is feature compatible with the C++ implementation. So you can use the one you want. So that's what it looks like. So you have an input, you have that thing, or it's just like person1 name Alice, person2 welcome, plus self.name, and then you have a second person, for example, which is this person1, but the name now is Bob. And it sounds like this, like hello Alice and hello Bob, because it's kind of a functional language. The commands, they do not exist in JSON, they do exist in YAML, but in JSON they don't. But you can have them in JSONNet. It means that if you write a JSON file, then you can actually put comments into it, which it's kind of useful when humans need to read them. Also, like when you're a human being and you put like a comma at the end of an array, you cannot do that in JSON, you can do it in JSONNet. Putting the double quotes into the hash map names, yeah, it's not mandatory in JSONNet. So it's more simple than JSON. You have variables that you can use and reuse so that you don't define 10 times the same value in your JSON files. You have functions, like I have a function new that creates an object with my 2 parameters. You can import libraries. So let's say I have a big library, in this case to generate Grafana dashboard. I just import it and then I can just do, okay, dashboard.new, and then with those 2 lines I get a full JSON file with a bunch of values based off just the parameters that I have given. On top of that, you also have a standard library which is built into JSONNet, which enables you to play with strings, do replacements, play with maps, loops, anything you want. This is battery included. How do you use that? So first, JSONNet, foo.jsonnet goes to foo.json, and then you can also build multiple files into one directory, so that in that case you end up with the case where you have all your dashboards, for example, in one directory. So you have a map, and then in that map it will create multiple JSON files just from one input. And you can also format that so that at the end you have everyone has the same formatting and there is no discussion about tabs versus spaces. Yeah, actually 30 seconds, but so in the real life examples you have JSONNet, GraphaNet. JSONNet is for KSONNet is for Kubernetes. GraphaNet is something that I have been written for the Grafana project. So if you use Grafana, you want to put dashboards as code, you can just try JSONNet and GraphaNet. That's it. Thank you.